Donald Trump with an executive order on day one. This is a new report from the Times telling us that transgender troops are going to be kicked out of the military. This is the report. An executive order could be signed as early as his first day back in the White House, which would force 15,000 people out of their posts. And the person who has commented on this is, of course, the incoming Secretary of Defense nominee, Pete Hegseth, who was on a podcast called The Sean Ryan Show, where he talked about this. We'll come back to that clip. But how far does this go? What is the impact of this going to be? What are people saying about this concept? Here is what the report says. He is planning, right? They're telling it this is happening, is what they're saying. Now, it could or could not happen. There's a lot of things that could happen between now and day one. But an executive order that would lead to the removal of all T's from the military, says defense sources. The order could come on his first day back in the White House. They say there's 15,000 people in this category. They would be medically discharged, which would determine that they were unfit to serve. And I'm wondering about this provision because I recall that they were throwing people out of the military saying that they were medically unfit because they were not jabbed, right? So there's precedent for the military making medical determinations about a person's competency. And sometimes that can have some political overlap since they threw a bunch of people out of the military. It would also lead to a ban on T's joining the military and would come at a time when almost all branches of the armed forces are failing to meet recruiting requirements. So they're like, we need people, so we'll just take everyone. Trump, 78, who has railed against woke practices in the military, saying that some high-ranking officers are often more interested in DEI than planning a fight. The ban is expected to be wider-ranging than a similar order made during his first term, when Trump prevented T's from joining the armed forces, but allowed those already serving to keep their jobs. Biden rescinded the order, but this time, even those with decades of service will be removed, according to several sources. These people will be forced out at a time when the military can't recruit enough people, a source said. Maybe it's because of that. Could think about that too. Maybe people don't want to join a military that is out of alignment with what they think a fighting force should be, or it's out of alignment with their values. Just one thought. Now, according to the Pentagon, privacy policies make it difficult to measure the number of active T's, but about 2,200 service members had been diagnosed with gender dysphoria when Trump's first ban was lifted. There are about 1.3 million active duty personnel in the military. There are believed to be thousands of other personnel who identify as a different gender. Military charities that fought the ban on the T's during the Trump's first term are aware of his plans for a similar move by the incoming administration. There's Pete Hegseth. Should a ban on the T's be implemented from day one of the Trump admin, it would undermine the readiness of the military and create an even greater recruitment and retention crisis, not to mention signaling vulnerability to American adversaries, said Rachel Brannaman, the executive director of Modern Military Association of America, which campaigns for the LGBs and the T's and the Q's and the pluses. So there's Pete Hegseth. Now, I'm not so sure that is the truth. Could say they're saying that there's a recruitment problem, but we'll come back to this article. Here's what Pete Hegseth said about this, because I also have this clip from Bill Hagerty, who says the idea that Pete Hegseth is coming in to take over the Department of Defense is actually leading to an increase in recruitment because people want to join a military that is filled with brutally lethal, highly competent fighting men and women, and not some woke DEI experiment where they're going to be lectured about their white rage. Maybe that's why they're not joining.
Hyperbolic here when it comes to the DOD. I think we're at and that's why I think it's our only way out and that's why I do think we're at an existential moment. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here when it comes to the DOD. I think we're at a shit or get off the pot moment. Yeah. We are at a tipping point for total institutional corruption. And Trump has a chance to reverse that when he wins. Because what the military did, I didn't finish the thought on that, is they committed a Bud Light. Like in search of a non-traditional constituency, they offended their core constituency. There aren't enough lesbians in San Francisco to man the 82nd Airborne. Mm-hmm. And in trying to cater to that, they lost the boys from Tennessee and Kentucky and Oklahoma. The traditional dudes who did it because they wanted country, or they wanted the adventure, or they wanted to try tough things, or they need an up and out of their community, whatever it is. They're like, if I wanted to do the woke crap, I could go to the local community college.
Yeah, go to
Being
college.
transgendered in the military causes complications and differences. And the book lays out the common arguments that those on the left or others make, which are baked in social justice.
That's his book.
So
there.
it started, you saw it under Clinton with the tinkering of Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the reasons for those changes. And I talked to some of the people involved in when that was changed. But it really started to accelerate under Obama. And you saw the trans stuff come at the end of the Obama administration. You saw the women in combat come at the end of the Obama administration. It's because they looked around at the bureaucracies that they controlled in Washington, and the one that they didn't control. Obama spent a disproportionate amount of time focusing on the Pentagon. They were skeptical of leadership and eventually brought in political appointees and generals who would do their bidding the way they wanted, which is when a top-down organization changes the ethos of the whole thing. The book is meant to pull the whole curtain back, mostly from Obama forward, and explain how the army that I enlisted in, or that I swore an oath in 2001 and was commissioned in 2003, looks a lot different than the army of today because we're focused on a lot of the wrong things.
Yeah, and that's by design, right? They're trying to change the force to suit their ideology in a way that perpetuates their power. And Bill Hagerty, a senator from Texas, he came out and he said the same thing. He said, we're starting to see some positive reenlistments because people are recognizing that there's going to be a changing of the guard soon enough.
John, all these are, as you said, are allegations. It's amazing how this comes out. Pete is a very talented individual. I talked with him earlier this week. He told me, John, about how many people had written to him and said, look, I was thinking about getting out. You know, we have a huge recruitment problem, a huge retention problem in the military. I was thinking about getting out, but now that you've come to lead us, Pete, I'm going to stay in. That's the type of inspirational leader we need to see. Don't let these allegations distract us. What we need is real significant change. The Pentagon has been more focused on pronouns than they have lethality the past 4 years. We need to get back to business, and I think Pete is just the person to do it.
And I think it's about that. It's about lethality. It's about having a readiness standard in the force to make sure people are competent and capable of delivering the deliverables that America and the military needs. Now, it's not, I think, from what we can see, about the actual individual or their lifestyle decisions, right? If somebody wants to be or is a T or a G or a B or an L or a plus or a Q or a spirit person or whatever, go wild, that's fine. But the military is established for a certain purpose, and there are people who have a difference of opinion about how to achieve that purpose. Now, you can see this. Rick Grinnell, who is famously a gay man, is now going to be under consideration for Trump's point man on Ukraine, right? So here you can just see it's not that Trump has any, I think, real problem with any of these groups or any of these people. As the left likes to say, he's a bigot, he's a racist, a homophobe, a transphobe, whatever. He's working with many people, but it's just about methods or a difference of opinion about implementation. So Rick Grinnell, they're saying, who was the former acting DNI, is now reportedly under consideration to be a special envoy to Russia, Ukraine. Currently, there's no special envoy responsible for bringing an end to the war in Europe because they want the war to continue. Trump is strongly considering whether to create the role. Reuters reported, citing 4 sources familiar with Trump's deliberations. Now, if he does create the new position, Grinnell is said to be the leading candidate. Though Trump could select someone else, there is no guarantee that Grinnell would be even wanting the position. But they obviously said, or previously said, that he was also in consideration for the Secretary of State. Instead, that went to Rubio. And Grinnell is an outspoken Trump loyalist, advocating for autonomous zones and more. So big changes coming to the military. We're excited to see how our military reacts to that, right? And whether they appreciate that, of course. We'll be looking forward to hearing from you, seeing what you think about this. Is this a positive development, or is this a positive development? All right.